066 or LoneStarTransfer.com. LoneStarTransfer.com. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
Has the new car shortage put a wrench in your buying plans? Don't let it. Make a wish list of your perfect car and bring it to WK. Ordering a brand new car at WK has never been easier. And while your friends wait for new cars to trickle in and settle for things like paint color they don't like or no sunroof, you'll be driving the car you want.
Friday, you stood here, though, and were asked about these documents issued by our account some 18 times. At that point, the president's lawyers had found these 5 additional pages of classified documents. So did you not know on Friday that those documents had been found when you were at the podium, or are you being directed by someone to not be forthcoming on this issue?
I have been forthcoming from...
I know not the best audio. Did you get the gist of what the reporter was asking, Corinne Jean-Pierre? Now, wait a minute. Friday, you said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. 18 times you said from the White House podium, you told the American public, yeah, all the documents. And then less than 24 hours later, what was the big story on Saturday?
More documents. Remember when we talked about that guy who worked for a utility company and hit a utility pole, and we talked about people who are having a bad day at work? I think she might be having a bad few days at work.
Do you almost feel sorry for her at this point? Do you have a little bit?
I have a little bit. I'm empathetic.
Yeah. Oh gosh, no. Under any circumstances. Matter of fact, we should maybe start. By the way, John, do we have? We're still working on putting up a dashboard. Like the COVID dashboard, keeping track of COVID deaths, which, by the way, 635 may be completely BS, the number of deaths, according to a doctor on CNN. Hear what she has to say at 635. But they had the dashboards. Hey, look at how many people are dying. Tick, tick, tick. One of the most disgusting things, really, that I'd ever seen. So we're working on a dashboard, number of documents found. Are we adding to the scoreboard this morning, Marsh? It's only 6:10. We got time. And we know the White House on more than one occasion has lied. Friday, no, that's everything. Less than 24 hours later, hey, look at what we found. We found more documents. This was stunning yesterday, at least to me. Leading up to the red wave that happened in 2022. The White House. It was all about J6. It was all about Trump. It was all about LGBTQ rights. It was all about all this stuff. Nothing about the economy. And we hearken back to the days of James Carville. It's the economy, stupid. It's the economy, stupid. Guess what they said at the White House yesterday? They said, Americans don't care about documents. They care about the economy.
What?
Brian, how do you, as a news director, honest human being reaction to the White House saying Americans don't care about documents, they care about the economy?
It is interesting.
Interesting. That's a dig from Brian Houseworth right there, I think.
Yeah.
Well, here's the interesting thing too. Will we see any more documents? Will we see anything more? Because in the defense of the press secretary, she's not going to know. I mean, they're giving her information, and but they put her in a bad position when she goes out and trots out and gives information like that. But again, she is reporting what she gets the information from people, but it does. And she was grilled yesterday by reporters who generally have been pretty friendly to this administration.
Corinne Jean-Pierre, yesterday getting grilled by reporters. Joe Biden, as a matter of fact, we have a hot mic moment later this morning. Biden was hosting somebody in the White House, and a reporter from MSNBC is on hot mic saying, the dude, Joe looked me right in the eye, refused to answer my question. It's getting bad. Welcome into the show. So the White House says, Americans, we don't care about documents. We don't care about the fact that a sitting president of the United States had in his garage, like a garage door opener, had access to the nation's secrets. All she needed was a garage door opener. Americans all of a sudden care about the economy, and I wonder why they care about the economy now. Is it because maybe it's
gas prices are lower today than they were when we were all saying, hey, doesn't anyone care about the economy?
Is it because it still sucks, doesn't suck quite as bad? I mean, cans of Progressive soup are going down a little bit, actually. Gas is a little bit on a roller coaster. right, in one of his homes, and announcing that on the day they came out with the latest inflation numbers, it shows it still sucks since the tragic events of January the 20th, 2021. Good morning and welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Brian Hausworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah, Stephanie Bell. I am Branden Rathert. One of the big things happening today, state of the state. We're going to preview kind of what we know, because there are some big things that were actually revealed right here on this show 2 weeks ago during the governor's prayer breakfast. One of our guests this morning, well, a couple of our guests this morning, as we're talking about the economy, Aaron Hedlund, Show Me Institute, debt ceiling. He's going to dumb it down for us. And also important things happening in Davos right now. World Economic Forum. He's here 7:10 and 7:35. Our Lieutenant Governor, Mike Kehoe, here prior to the State of the State address. Brian Hausworth yesterday in a courtroom. I got to be honest, I get really uncomfortable talking about this stuff. But wow,
but we have to. It's our it's our job. Unfortunately, I mean it's. Yeah. But I agree with you. It is awful. It is awful. The court documents are beyond horrendous.
Story last week. The remains of a human body found in a burn pit. By the way, in a neighborhood in Columbia, like not in Sturgeon, not in a rural area of Callaway County, but in town. We're learning more details about this. One of the things we've learned, we know the name of the victim. He was from Jefferson City. What happened in the courtroom yesterday?
It was a very brief appearance, Brandon. I was in the courtroom. It was about 2 to 3 minutes. The suspect, 20-year-old Emma Rose Adams, appeared in court via video. The video is a little grainy, so it was hard to really tell, but she basically displayed, I can tell you, no emotion whatsoever. She did not speak. But they did waive the bond hearing. She is represented, and this is, I think, very interesting and a big deal. She's represented by defense attorney Jeffrey Hillbrenner. She does not have a public defender, so she went out and got Hillbrenner, well-known attorney from the Wade Nettemeyer and law firm here in town. Samuel Clemens is the victim. Now, that name was not mentioned in court yesterday, but I can tell you his family was in court. They are from Jefferson City, and they had a lot of members of the family there. The court documents I have, and again, there's a lot of this I just can't get into other than what you said is absolutely accurate. They found, I'm going to keep this very brief, a smoldering human body in the fire pit. There's a couple of roads that go right behind and near this house. Many people in that area, and no emotion. In fact, she was sleeping in the house when they came to knock on the door. They had to wake her up, and she didn't want them going out into the backyard, but they searched the house, found the body in the backyard. She's claiming self-defense. She says he beat her. The court documents clearly are saying that she tampered with evidence by burning the body. So I think we're really seeing her legal defense set up. She's going to claim self-defense.
The word that comes to mind is just gruesome. Was there any word yesterday on why? Because she failed to appear in her first court appearance.
That was a great point. I was helping my mom that day, so I wasn't in court for that. But I can tell you, I was expecting that to come up. Stephanie, the one thing I don't like about video arraignments is I can't see everything, but it basically it's a video arraignment, kind of like the monitor up here that has Brandon and all of us on there, and you can only see certain things. So they actually, down at the jail, they went, and she was the very last one to come up. I kept looking for her because there's inmates that sit in the back, but I sensed that they wanted to clear the rest of the inmates out and then get to her. She was the last one. No emotion whatsoever. Just it's just hard to describe. Kind of looking down, and it's very clear her and Hillbrenner had an agreement. Hillbrenner would do the speaking on this, so they waived the arraignment, and he didn't even ask for a bond reduction. There is no bond for her right now.
Packed courtroom, a lot of the victims' family members in there from Jefferson City. And you ever burnt your hair on a curling iron?
Yes.
That smell. That's what that neighborhood smelled like. Apparently, from folks as a matter of fact, we have people in the building that live in that neighborhood. We've talked to other people. You've seen the news accounts. Like the neighbor, that was smelled through. There's a
sentence. There's a sentence in the court document that I will not share with you that is beyond what you both. It's just beyond anything I've ever seen in a court document before.
Disturbed.
And it's directly related to what you just said.
In this question, you might be able to better answer this than because my answer would be, well, kind of to an extent. Sometimes even in jail, you don't always have to do what you're being told to do. But last week, she refused to do a court appearance. How does, do you know the legal ramification? She did eventually, but wouldn't go and just simply refused to do it.
I can tell you, Brandon, about 30 years I've been covering courts, and I've never seen that happen before, and I wish I could have been there to see it because it wasn't discussed. But legally, she has a response. I mean, it's her right to appear in court. So it just, I don't understand it. Her attorney, clearly Hillbrenner, must have got to her because it's not going to help her by not going and refusing to leave the cell. Now they may claim mental issues or whatever. They have not done that yet. But I've never seen that, and there was no indication. But it looked to me like Sheriff Carey's staff at the jail wanted to get all the other inmates out of that. When we toured the jail, that room that they had the video monitor, they wanted all of a lot of those were male, and there were some females too. They got all of them out, and then she was the last one to go on the arraignment. And I think the family of the victim was probably expecting to see her in court. She was on video.
All right. By the way, you can watch the show. Brian was kind of mentioning it a little bit. You can watch our show. Go to our YouTube channel, also on our Facebook page. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Kind of cool. You get behind-the-scenes stuff. A lot of times this morning, you see me barefoot. Stephanie's in slippers this morning, which I totally dig. That's how we roll here on the show. We're just having coffee with you. You can be here, too. 874-9390. 874-9390. Big event today, State of the State Address. We talk about the things that come out. It's kind of like the, hey, here's in the budget. That's the biggie, really.
Yeah, the governor. We'll learn more about the governor's proposed budget and his priorities for the year. So I'm really looking forward to it. It kind of kicks it off, and everyone's been kind of singing "Kumbaya" so far. Everyone's in a positive mood. Until until maybe some of the governor's priorities might conflict with some other priorities. I don't know. Will the speech lead to more "Kumbaya" or will it generate some conflict?
And are the women going to be dressed?
Come on. Let's not start that again.
Oh, my gosh. Did you see what happened in Vermont, Marsh? Oh, my gosh. Stephanie and Hannah, we got to cover this morning.
Solidarity.
Solidarity.
No,
man.
Fundraising, clickbait.
And it relates to, and it was in the Vermont legislature, and it has to do with our legislature. Today, 4 to 6, Tobler, host of the Randy Tobler Show, he's going to be breaking down, kind of analyzing what the governor tells us in today's State of the State. Tobler is here at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Right now, we're getting ready for the daily D.C. rundown. What's happening in D.C. this morning?
Well, most of Congress is still in Davos, right? Or some of them are. So we'll be talking of foreign relations, China, and more on Ukraine.
All right, and how this all impacts you. Steph,
China has been openly encouraging energy-intensive companies in Europe and elsewhere to relocate all or part of their production. They do so with the promise of cheap energy, low labor costs, and a more lenient regulatory environment.
Ursula von der Leyen, she is the European Union president, talking about China. This taking place World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Important stuff happening there. As a matter of fact, 710, Aaron Hedlund from the Show Me Institute, he's going to be here to break it down, dumb it down for us, as I like to call it. But we got more on this with Stephanie Bell in today's Daily DC Rundown.
And so, yes, there are 11 members of Congress over in Davos, and I'm excited to talk to Aaron about what is going on there. Meanwhile, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is meeting with her Chinese counterpart about competition and all things U.S. and China. I'm wondering, did Yellen kind of take a dig at Joe? She said in her opening remarks, while we have areas of disagreement and we will convey them directly, we should not allow misunderstandings to unnecessarily worsen our bilateral economic and financial relationship. And, you know, there's been a lot of misunderstandings when Joe talks, and the White House has had to walk back a lot of stuff. So it almost sounds like a dig, like, hey, China, don't let anything this guy over here says or doesn't say or confuses you on, like, cause us any problems. We'll be clear when we've got a problem.
Because we do. This is something Stephanie and I have been on since day one. Anytime Joe deals with world leaders, we get nervous. And so you're yelling and say, hey, don't look behind the curtain, man. I got this. Just ignore that noise.
But good news coming out of Congress yesterday. Missouri Congressman Mark Alford and we had recently talked to him, and he said, you know, the committees I really want on are armed services because it's so important to my district, and agriculture. And so he announced yesterday he got put on those committees. Big deal for Missouri. We've, of course, fought on the heels of Congressman Smith getting the chairmanship of Ways and Means. So I think positive news for Missouri there.
Did George Santos get on the Ways and Means Committee?
He did get recommended for some committees, so I don't know exactly which ones, but apparently he's hanging on. Either way, if he did get recommended for committees, he's going to lie about which ones they were. So we'll see.
Did you see George Santos miss those 4 extra points in the NFC playoff game the other night? That's on his resume, too.
All right. Sad news yesterday in Ukraine. An interior minister died in a helicopter crash. No word whether it was due to the war or whether it was an accident, but certainly is the most senior official, Ukrainian official to die since the Russia conflict began. Also, more news about Trump in 2024. He's got an event coming up in South Carolina, which we had heard about on January 28th. No one is scurrying to their hair appointment or trying to avoid him in South Carolina, at least yet. U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham and Governor Henry McMaster are suspected to be at the event. He's going to unveil his South Carolina leadership team. I'm sure it will be lots of pomp and circumstance. I'm excited.
He was asked about DeSantis yesterday. You want to hear his answer?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
Here's Trump being asked about DeSantis yesterday.
His rallies were unbelievable, and he ended up beating Gillum. And most people thought he couldn't do that, but I thought he could. So I got him elected, pure and simple. He would have never, if I said I wasn't going to endorse you. So, you know, now I hear he might want to run against me. So we'll handle that the way I handle things.
Yeah. So.
And the reporter there, that's the appropriate response when Trump says, I'll handle it the way I handle it. And the reporter goes, yeah. Next question.
I want someone to talk to DeSantis and get his response. Hey, Trump's taking credit for your win. What's your response?
Coming up just a few minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri about those COVID deaths. And this, according to CNN, maybe CNN admitting what a lot of us smart folks had suspected all along.
think it's important for us to be intellectually honest in this case, and that includes recognizing that circumstances have changed. At the beginning of the pandemic, we had a situation where there were many people dying from COVID pneumonia, including healthy young people were dying because of severe shortness of breath.
Tell us something we don't know, Lena Wen. From CNN, Washington Post columnist, she was one of the biggest ones on the national news outlets. Oh, these people are dying of COVID. And how many of us smart people, no offense to you if you're not smart, that were saying, wait, you're counting these as COVID deaths. And now, and I love especially the beginning part of her statement.
I think it's important for us to be intellectually honest.
Now, all of a sudden, it's important for us to be intellectually honest. It's like the White House saying yesterday, Americans don't care about documents. They all of a sudden care about the economy, when for months it was whatever it was. It was January 6th. It was Trump. Nothing about the economy. Now all of a sudden they're being intellectually honest. Now they're saying Americans don't care about documents. They care about the economy. She's saying, hey, we have to be intellectually honest now. And I don't even think I understand what those two words together means. Intellectually honest.
Follow the science. I think some of us were saying that a long time ago. But, it worries me because, I have a healthy skepticism of government already. I think there are a lot of people who, didn't care either way. But I think, to the extent, and I worry about the future, 30 years from now, say there is something really scary, say there is something that is important for people to go do, and the government saying, you do this. I think the intellectual dishonesty has bred so much mistrust that, and I worry, because a lot of times I think during COVID too, a lot of people were looking at their parents being like, oh, come on, just, it was the older people who were kind of pushing back. And I think I'm going to be that person in 30 years. If the government, now if the government tells me to do something, I'll be skeptical. But for sure, if they're telling me get this jab, I'm going to be like, nope. No, thank you. And I think a lot, and I'm not saying that, that I couldn't follow the science, but if the science really backed it up, and the government should be telling you to do something, I worry people will be like, even if the science was there, they're going to just be so distrustful based on everything that's happened over the last 3 years that they would act against their own interests. And
I think the other thing is, we talk about this intellectual honesty. And I'm trying to get my head around this. I need somebody smarter, like maybe producer Hannah could look at if you combine intellectual honesty. But here's the thing. There was a lot of dishonesty. You don't need a mask. Yes, you do need a mask. There was the fear. You're rushing this vaccine to the market this quick. That was one of the biggest concerns, built on the heels of the lies that we had heard from people like Dr. Fauci. And so, when the government says that, you got to do something. So what Dr. Lena Wen is saying here regarding the overcounting of deaths, she is now saying what a lot of folks had been saying. Can you believe this is the fourth calendar year we've been 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. This is the fifth calendar year that we're talking about COVID. But she is saying, so these people died with COVID. They didn't die because of COVID. We talked about the comorbidities and the other issues that these people had. They didn't die because of COVID. It's like Whitney Houston. She died of a drug overdose. Well, no, technically she drowned because they didn't die because of COVID. They had other health issues and then got COVID. Intellectual honesty.
So it's one of those definitions that I feel like doesn't explain anything at all. It says intellectual honesty is honesty in the acquisition, analysis, and transmission of ideas. A person is being intellectually honest when he or she, knowing the truth, states the truth.
So is there a difference between... Well, that's what I'm wondering, John. Is there a difference between honesty and intellectual honesty? Oh. Anyhow, welcome to the show. How you doing today, John? Good. Steph, how about you?
I'm great.
I love this. If you go to our YouTube channel, Wake Up Mid-Missouri, you can watch the show every morning. People are going, like when they're getting ready for work and stuff in the morning, they pop it up on the smart TV. You get the local news, some thoughts, opinions, things that might get in your way today. And there's a big event happening at Mizzou Arena. Mizzou, Arkansas is ranked. Mizzou trying to get back on track. It's a big gold rush, and you will see Stephanie Bell decked out in gold rush colors.
Yeah, I've been talking. I'm going to the game tonight, and I saw on Twitter last night the coach saying, hey, and they had the whole stadium or arena painted yellow and said, hey, if you're sitting in these places, wear this color. Gold Rush. So gold blazer for Gold Rush.
Incidentally, I fully expect to see everybody from the Columbia Chamber of Commerce there with their gold
their ambassador jackets.
Governor Parsons, so what do you do after you give what is the biggest speech typically every year in Jefferson City, the state of the state, which, by the way, Tobler today, 4 o'clock here on the show, we'll have analysis and rundown of what was said, how this might impact you. What does the governor do after he delivers the State of the State address? He goes to a Mizzou basketball game. He's going to be there tonight. Producer Hannah is here.
Hello.
Good morning. Welcome to the show. My name is Branden Rathert. If there is something that we can do for you, 874-9390. Stuart asking via text, what is the opposite of intellectual honesty? Okay, easy answer, intellectual dishonesty. What's the opposite of intellectual? Dumb?
That's the word I was going to use.
Is that what this CNN medical analyst and Washington Post contributor saying?
I think it's important for us to be intellectually honest.
Intellectually, it's important for us to be stupidly honest?
No, I mean, I think you can be wrong. You can have the wrong information, and you can have a real belief that what you're saying is true, right? Mm-hmm. So your data could be wrong. You could be relying on, but you could honestly believe it's true. But here you have the right data. You could also have the correct data and lie about it, which is like what Dr. Fauci did, right? Like he knew that he wasn't following the science and then he lied about it. That's intellectual dishonesty. You could have bad information and still have a legitimate, real belief that you're telling the truth.
Clear as mud?
There you go. Yeah.
Good work.
You could have no information.
Here's the other thing I'm trying to wrap my head around. I obviously don't like taxes, don't like new taxes, will not vote on taxes. But some local governing bodies in mid-Missouri approving, putting at least, say we're going to put it to the voters regarding a tax on recreational weed. What happened last night, John? Wait till the incremental taxing districts get a hold of this too. And so here's what I'm trying to get my head around. As somebody I don't like taxes, and by the way, Gary Nolan hosts the Nolan Show, the personal property tax on vehicles. He nails this every single time. But recreational weed tax, okay, it's, I don't know, what's the best description? It's an item outside. Yeah. And as somebody, I'm not going to buy weed. So part of me wants to say, because the money it would, for the most part, mental health services, addiction services, things like that. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm kind of okay. I'm okay with it because I'm not going to use the weed. I'm not buying it. And
again, with the
weed.
The weed.
The weed. But I don't like taxes. But this tax ain't going to affect me. So am I a hypocrite for saying this is a tax? Yeah, I'd vote for this. Does that make me a hypocrite? But.
And I don't think it makes you a hypocrite. I mean, that's one of the big arguments for local governments to impose a sales tax. Ashland voted last night. I was outvoted to send a sales tax to the voters. But I will be supportive because that's how the city voted. But I'm just saying, no, but that's part of the argument with the sales tax is that, as a resident, I'm not going to pay that full rate with all of the people who are driving through Ashland and shopping in Ashland. And so I've heard from county residents who said, look, I do all of my shopping. All of my, stuff, I drive through the city of Ashland. I do, everything in the city of Ashland, putting a burden on the city, but I don't pay any of your, property tax. I don't pay any of that because I live in the county. Now, if that person is now, in the city all the time, they might be, chipping in a little bit through the sales tax. So, for forever, that's been the argument for the sales tax, kind of like your marijuana thing is, hey, it's not all going to be on me. Anybody who is, coming in and driving on our roads and, utilizing the services here could be paying the sales tax if they do a sale at retail.
And here's the other thing I wonder. Let's say you go, oh, hey, man, I can't wait till I can't wait till I can go and actually buy, which should be happening less than a month from now, that you would be able to do this. As somebody who says, yes, I like to use marijuana on a recreational basis, am I okay? As somebody who's going to be purchasing marijuana, am I okay? Yeah, I'll pay an extra tax on it. Hell, it's legal. Why not?
Did you just see the text we got from Sean? He said, I think Stephanie just put press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre in the same category as flat earthers.
Well, yeah, please clarify there, Mr. Marsh. Karine Jean-Pierre, very bad day at the White House again yesterday. I exaggerate sometimes. Hannah has fact-checked me on this and that statement.
Yeah, it's true.
But I really did think stunning comments from the White House yesterday from Karine Jean-Pierre. She said, Americans don't care about documents. They care about the economy.
Yet it was their hair on fire about the Trump documents. They don't care about Biden documents. We should have put a paren in there. Americans don't care about Biden documents.
She was having a very bad day. You know who else had a very bad day? And we mentioned this briefly yesterday because I can't remember if it was record setting or not. NFC playoff game the other night that Dallas kicker Brett Maher missed 4 extra points.
Ouch.
And we think like when we have a bad day, but the way this guy handled it afterwards, I thought, wow.
I was surprised to learn that there were any government records taken to the Penn Biden Center. I had no knowledge of it at the time.
Secretary of State Anthony Blinken seems like, I had no knowledge. He's getting that out there and quick. A growing number of people, not just Democrats, not just news journalists, but people even within the administration starting to separate themselves.
They're saying, not it, touching their finger to their nose and being like, I didn't know. Not me.
This is Wake Up Mid-Mo. John Marsh, Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah.
Nose goes.
I'm Branden Rathert. Marsh, how many extra points did that dude miss the other night? Was it 4, 3, 4? It was several. Yeah.
The guy who has one job, which is to kick.
Kick the ball. By the way, seriously, people, that's either one of the easiest jobs in the NFL or
one of the most high-pressure jobs. Imagine it comes down to the last field goal attempt at the end of the game.
And you're it. Not it.
Yeah. Would not want to be that guy.
Was it Scott Norwood, 92-93, Buffalo v. Dallas, wide right. It's a game the Buffalo Bills should have won. They were widely expected to win. Lost that one, then lost the next 3 Super Bowls.
And I think of the stress as a mom watching my kid play. Like, I have very little stress if he's just out on the football field or playing basketball on a 5-person team. But, like, the stress of a pitcher's mom or of him at bat, like those, it's all on you.
This guy had a bad day.
He really did.
And everybody saw it, and if you didn't see it, you read about it and you heard about it the next day. We've all had bad days.
I'm so glad that my bad days aren't on national television for the whole world to see.
I don't follow the sports ball, but it was all over the Bird app. It was all over the Twitter. I knew somebody was having a really bad day.
So for anybody that's had a bad day, I think this guy seriously offers a master class, at least on the surface, of keeping things in perspective and how to handle it. He's being asked by a reporter that, hey, what was going through your head? And you'll also hear here, by the way, the reporter even says, are you cool to keep talking about this? And the kicker, Brett Maher, even says, yeah, he says, I'm cool. But I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I'm super happy for the team. This is a big win for us. Definitely need to do my part tonight. And this team is too good moving forward for me not to do that. So get back at it this week.
What was kind of going through your mind after the first and then after the second?
You can keep going, or appreciate that. I was just trying to put a good, clean strike on it. Wasn't able to do that for.
By the way, update the resume. That was Marsh. That was not somebody. But isn't that cool? You have such a bad day. This guy.
Isn't that cool? You have such a bad day and someone's sticking a microphone in your face and you have to recount it on national TV. Wow.
He handled it so well, and it's a reminder for me, a bad day, they happen sometimes. It's not the end of the world, but when you're in it, but it's the worst thing in the world. It can be embarrassing, whatever it is. But imagine if every day you're walking out of Ellinger Bell and you've got 15 people jamming microphones into your face. What happened today? How did it go? Every day.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Wouldn't want to do it. So there are some things happening in Davos, World Economic Forum. Yes, sir. John. Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought you were.
But I will say, on your bad days, but they're also there on the good days, and that's, John's right. That's why they get paid so much money. And, when you get to celebrate with, millions of your closest friends at the Super Bowl, that they have lows, but they've also got some pretty significant highs.
Yeah. And I want to do those press conferences.
Right.
When I walk out of Zimmer every day, so tell us, how did you feel? What was going through your mind?
Shoot the confetti cannon.
Yeah. Well, man, Bell was hitting it, and producer Hannah and Marsh, everybody was on it. World Economic Forum, dumbing it down for us, what's happening there and why it matters. Aaron Hedlund, Show Me Institute, joins us coming up at 7:10 on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
And of course, the other massive ecosystem-mediated pathway between climate change and health is the impact on our mental health. And we see it's a two-directional pathway. Number one, young people are petrified about the future, and that is having a substantial impact on their mental health.
I don't know that dude's name speaking at the World Economic Forum. I agree with him. Hold up, don't get mad. I agree with him. He talks. So people are so freaked out about climate change. Young people are having mental health issues, and here's where I agree. Because of how the national news outlets every day, USA Today, biggest offender. Oh my God, it rained in California. Climate change. We got snow in Jefferson City, but not in Columbia. Climate change. I agree with them. Young people are freaking out, not because of intellectual honesty, which is a new phrase that we've learned from Dr. Lena Wen on CNN. They're scared because of the way the national news outlets paint this doom and gloom. We're all going to die unless you buy a Tesla. Man. That was, by the way, World Economic Forum. Who's the dude you crush on? Elon Musk.
Yes.
Did you hear? He's saying he was invited but didn't want to go. Officials are saying he wasn't invited. But his reasoning, apparently, according to him, for not wanting to go, boring AF. Hannah, can you translate? What does AF mean?
It means as.
It's something you can't put on a license plate.
We got to bring in somebody from the Show Me Institute, somebody who served the White House Council of Economic Advisors, Aaron Hedlund. Aaron, what does AF mean? When somebody says boring AF, what does that mean?
I think I'll punt that to the next generation to explain.
Welcome. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah, our guest, Aaron Hedlund, Show Me Institute. Former senior advisor at the White House Council of Economic Advisors. He's got all the creds. If you had a baseball card, there'd be your mug on the front. You turn it over, you got all the credentials. Here's what I'm thinking about. Let's say somebody going to work at the Dollar General Distribution Center in Fulton this morning, and they're driving and they're listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, 93.9 The Eagle, 104.5 News Radio, 950 KWS. And I've heard the World Economic Forum, bunch of rich people in a foreign country and all that, but why should I care? Why should that person care about what's happening right now there, Aaron?
Well, first of all, you've given me a great idea for a side hustle, which is to create a business that makes economist baseball cards.
I'll take a cut.
Yeah, as far as why should the average person care about what happens there, honestly, they probably shouldn't.
Well, we appreciate your honesty. We'll chat with you next time. Aaron Hedlund, Show Me Institute.
I think he just said, I agree with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, there's a lot of important things going on in the economy, and I don't think what the elites discuss at these forums abroad really matters quite so much. But, the data on inflation, that's the stuff that matters. The debates that are going on in D.C. where they're actually making decisions, that stuff definitely matters. So it's certainly useful to see what people are thinking, and unfortunately, the leadership is still pretty currently rudderless at the moment.
I'm struggling with this debt issue, which is kind of coming to a head. And I think where I'm struggling is, Republicans want to push back and limit spending. And I agree there. I've got two questions. One person I've heard has said, hey, this is all already authorized. So it's like racking up a big credit card bill and refusing to pay it. That is not smart. So A, is that true? And then two, Democrats are saying, hey, Republicans suddenly care about spending. During the Trump administration, which you were, in the Trump administration, they kept raising the debt ceiling. So how do we square our actions, how do we support Republicans now and say, yes, push back with what happened during Trump's time?
Yes, I'd say a couple things. First of all, the analogy that analogy is used all the time about people, we already spent the money and now we're just wanting to, now we have to pay the bill. That's not quite the correct analogy, because some of the money has actually been spent, and clearly will continue to be spent. Some of the things were ordered, but hasn't actually been spent yet. So I would say, imagine you show up to a restaurant, the meal is ongoing, the family is racking up really expensive orders. but the kitchen hasn't actually started cooking everything. So it seems like one of the things you'd want to do is spending that maybe was ordered but hasn't actually occurred yet. Go ahead and stop some of that. So I do think it is very sensible for the new Congress to say, hold on a second, the left racked up tons of spending very recently. We're going to cancel some of it. But things that are ongoing, that have been on the budget for a while and clearly, and there's kind of no way to reverse that spending, that sort of stuff, you keep going. So I think that's the different analogy. I mean, ultimately, the debt ceiling will have to be raised. I mean, there's no question that it has to be raised. The question is, how can we avoid this cycle of one group spends a bunch of money and then punts it to the next group to unfortunately have to pay it? So those are the reforms we got to think about doing.
But how do you square the raising of the debt ceiling during the Trump times when they say, well, you didn't care about the debt ceiling because it got raised during the Trump administration?
Yeah, so ultimately the debt ceiling will have to be raised. There's no question there. If someone's saying we're literally never going to raise it, that's not going to happen. And I would say that deficit spending is not confined to one party or the other. We've had deficits for quite some period of time. But if you look at the past few years, there's been about a 24% increase in spending that was very abrupt and it hasn't gone away. So this is of a totally different scale. No one's saying that next year we're going to go to a balanced budget that quickly. That's just not going to happen. We're on an unsustainable path, and now we're on a wildly unsustainable path, and we need to correct that very rapidly.
Professor, thank you for joining us live. I want to ask about something more locally here that involves a marketplace in mid-Missouri. It's a huge issue that we're going to hear a lot about. It will dominate news coverage today, and that is the governor's proposal for state employee pay. He is going to call today on the legislature to not only pass an 8.7% COLA adjustment for state employees, but he wants it done by March the 1st. And he says this, quote, "This is not state government attempting to set the market. This is an attempt by state government to stay competitive with the market," noting, Aaron, that there are 7,000 open positions in state government. Does the Show Me Institute have a position on that proposed pay raise?
So the Show Me Institute is very much pro-market, right? And I would say that the market is not giving people 8+% raises. Unfortunately, that's the consequence of inflation. Its purchasing power is eroded. And so what I would say is, in times like this is a perfect opportunity to assess how we can modernize the workforce in the state. So there absolutely should be some positions where if the only way to recruit someone who can fill the job is to pay them a bunch more, then that should happen. But then if there are positions where people have been there for way too long, it's not an effective position, it's not really delivering for the state, there's no point giving that position a raise. Ultimately, some positions you may not want to continue on. So I don't think you just automatically give blanket pay raises. You want to reserve that for where it's truly needed.
Aaron Hedlund, Show Me Institute, former senior advisor at the White House Council of Economic Advisors during the Trump admin, hanging out with us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
I'm keeping my Friedmans. Yeah, it's a good question. I'd have to go back in the history books and see how often it's gone up. But yeah, it's basically the credit card limit, right? We're hitting the limit, and you can't spend more without raising the limit. And some of the spending has already happened, and it's ongoing, so there's nothing to do about that. But the things that were recently authorized, but the money hasn't actually been incurred and gone out the door and spent, absolutely, that should be on the table to stop that. Like you can go back to, you can talk to the waiter and say, well, hold on a second, that really deluxe dessert I just ordered, let's go ahead and cancel it. And unfortunately, right now, the left is saying, no, you can't cancel orders. Once you order it, you can never take it back. Oh, if it hasn't actually been cooked yet, sure you can.
How far off base is this comparison? I think back to when I was a younger guy and I started getting credit cards and, oh, wow, look at this. And I also remember on more than one occasion, like when I would tap out at that $5,000 mark or the $10,000 mark, I would call the credit card company and I'd say, yes, Visa, this is Mr. Rathert. I'm approaching my $10,000 limit. why don't y'all go ahead and jack that up for me today? And then they would bump it up to 12.5. I still didn't have the money to make the payments or pay down that debt, but they raised how much I could, in effect, borrow. Is that too simplistic? Is that analogous?
So the good news is that in the U.S., we're still the strongest economy in the world. We're not literally on the door of being unable to pay the bills, but we've racked up tons of debt. And if we keep going like this, especially with a bunch of retirements happening and all the strain that's going to create, we really will run into problems. So I would say one reform we should think about is any time going forward there's a bill that proposes increasing deficits, in that same bill there should also be the debt limit increase at the same time. And the reason for that is you can't have politicians taking credit for popular spending and then punting the unpopular debt limit increase to someone else. They should happen at the same time. So if someone proposes more deficits, then they also have to take the heat for the higher limit.
Aaron Hedlund, man, I appreciate more than you know when you come on, because we've had an influx since the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021. We've had an incredible influx of regretful Biden voters, younger people that are now listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri and going like, what's happening? Why am I paying $8 for eggs? Why is gas like this? Why is the can of Progressive soup so high now? Why? And trying to explain it to those people. That's why we appreciate you. Anything else you want to add? Website you want to give out? Show Me Institute, anything like that where you want to send people to?
Yeah, well, they should absolutely check out showmeinstitute.org. And in the next day or two, we're actually going to have a piece that's sort of explaining inflation and where things are likely to be going over the next few months.
All right. Thank you so much, Aaron Hedlund. Coming up 7:35, our Lieutenant Governor, Mike Kehoe, he is going to be joining us. This, not so much a preview on the state of the state, but some things that are going to be in there. And he's going to talk about, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe is going to be talking about mental health issues, veteran issues in the ag industry here in the state of Missouri. He's here at 7:35. Programming note, 4 o'clock this afternoon. Tobler Show. He is going to be basically encapsulating what happened at the State of the State today. Coming up, 7:25-ish. What's hot with Hannah? What do you have for us, Hannah?
Well, the Buffalo Bills have gone viral for doing something pretty cool for their local heroes.
Great story. Making Good morning, 7:25-ish.
Oh.
Which means
It's 7:25.
He wants that gold star so badly.
I'm not giving him a gold star for doing what he's supposed to have been doing all this time.
How much trouble would I get if I actually brought in a confetti cannon to shoot it at 7:25?
Can I? Hannah, can we tell Stephanie this story that you and I had pre-show yesterday about some behind-the-scenes stuff as far as the structure of the show and the clocks and all that?
I don't remember this conversation, so sure.
Am I getting blamed for being late?
No,
Okay.
no. Complimented, actually.
Oh, good. Uh-oh.
Have you
Sorry.
been drinking?
No.
We do have What's Hot with Hannah, and it's a really good one. Made me smile. But I was talking about some new things we're trying to do with how we formulate.
Like be on time.
Well, yeah, and the stories and who all can see it and who all. And so I've been messing around with some of it.
I'm sorry.
And I'm bragging to Hannah. I'm like, look, John, quit passing Hannah the bottle, would you? And I'm like, yeah, and I've been trying out these new things. And I was like, really excited. And Hannah says, oh, well, maybe Stephanie will give you a gold star today.
He's like, I got this new technology. It's called a whiteboard.
I think I also said maybe you won't get any question mark text messages from Steph, too.
You know I'm mad.
Been a
You just
while.
get the single question mark.
Hannah, can you stumble through what's hot with
I'm going to
Hannah
try.
today?
I'm going to try. I apologize. So, the Buffalo Bills have been in the news lately. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. You know, their player, DeMar Hamlin's kind of a big story right now. There's another reason the Bills are going internet viral this week. They did something really cool for one of their local heroes. The snowstorm that hit Buffalo a couple weeks ago. You know, they had like 6 or 7 feet of snow, and there were a couple people that died in that snowstorm. Well, there was a local Good Samaritan who... Sorry. I'm distracting myself.
Your radio is not cutting out, by the way. Hannah she's been stricken with a case of the hiccups. Wait till she reads the news here coming up at 7:30.
Well, this guy named Jay, he actually broke into a school. He broke a window and broke into the school and ended up saving the lives of like 24 people. So, yeah, he broke into the school. That's maybe not the best thing to do.
Crime does pay.
It does pay, apparently. The Buffalo Bills got a hold of this story, and they sent Jay 2 tickets to the Super Bowl, which is really cool, but also makes me wonder if the Bills are anticipating being there. Like, is that putting the cart before the horse?
So, and you bring up a really good question, because
There it is.
Here's my thing. Does anybody else feel kind of like it's destiny for the Bills to go to and win the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, for DeMar.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I know.
Sorry, that was the clumsiest What's Hot with Hannah I have ever done.
No, it was very good. So the dude, he saved a bunch of people, and the Buffalo Bills, who are being as assumptive as John, because John, we've been assumptive too about the Chiefs are going to be in the championship game, haven't we? The Bills may be being assumptive. Kids, I was kidding. The lesson here is not that crime does pay. But sometimes, hey, remember that time I broke and entered into a school and I got tickets to the Super Bowl? Coming up. Yeah, hold my beer and watch this. Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe here. Mental health issues, veteran issues, very important conversation. Coming up 7:35, Congressman Mark Alford. He's been appointed to some pretty hefty committees in D.C. This is also very important stuff. He's going to be joining us at 8:10 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
As your state treasurer, I will stand up for Missourians to ensure you are able to realize your God-given potential. I am confident that working together, we will be successful. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the great state of Missouri.
That's Vivek Malik, and this was historic. What happened yesterday in Jefferson City, sworn in as treasurer, historic top first minority to hold a statewide executive branch office. You think about the history and the number of offices over the years, pretty impressive. I want to bring in Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. We're going to talk about a couple of things as it relates to veterans issues, mental health issues, maybe a little bit what he expects in the state of the state today. But let me ask you this first, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you so much for being here. What do you know about Mr. Malik?
Well, his story is unbelievable. First of all, Branden, before I forget, you did a great job at the prayer breakfast. I'm not trying to suck up to you, but I do need to give credit where credit's due. That was a great event, and you were a wonderful host that we had.
Well, thank you. But did you see?
Wolf.
Did you see where I fell off the stage at the end of the event with the pastor?
Well, you know, it's radio, so you don't have to tell people that. And I'm not a professional like you are, but I've been on with you, your co-host, several times. So,
well, thank you for your kind words, sir.
Anyway, Casey Wolf was one of the most inspiring speakers I've ever heard, and I've been to a lot of those things, and I'm sure you have too.
Yeah.
Vivek's story is unbelievable, and it is what America is all about. You know, a guy comes with 2 suitcases and $300 in his pocket, goes to school in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and he becomes one of the most successful attorneys in the state and certainly in that region. And now all of a sudden he's a statewide office holder. So he will do very well. And I think Missourians will gain a lot from his expertise, his knowledge, and his kind of journey through life that got him here today. And it's what makes him a great conservative, by the way. I think he'll do very well.
And I love stories like that because that's a tangible result. People say, well, we all got to start out we got to do this and make concessions. This guy, perfect example of, again, hard work, determination, what they can do. Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe is joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Brian Hausworth, producer Hannah checking out for a little bit. She's got the hiccups this morning, and I don't know why we're all giggling our rear ends off about it.
Yeah, I don't know either. I was really concerned about hiccuping when I was on the phone with the Lieutenant Governor.
Did she pass muster, Lieutenant Governor? She didn't hiccup.
Hey, Hannah does a great job. Every time I've been on with you guys, you kind of give her the raspberries, but every time she accepts a call from me, she's very professional and polite. And I've been around the Zimmer Network for 30 plus years. And Hannah, I mean, you're way better than Marsh or Hausworth.
Wow.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
John, you all right, buddy?
And Stephanie Bell is featured in the local newspaper. I hope you guys all got signed articles of that.
Yes.
Thank you. Her business. Are we allowed to mention her business on air or no?
Absolutely.
Can we say the trolley company? Okay,
yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
But that's part of your job, right? I mean, is promoting your Buy Missouri program and local businesses, and you've been all over the state visiting small businesses, and that's how I first got to know you as a business owner in Jefferson City. What have you learned over the last year as far as what's important to our small business owners?
Well, we have an incredible state with small business, and Stephanie, and Brian and John have been around me for a long time. Business is where, the rubber meets the road in Missouri. It is our economy. It is our family-owned businesses across the state who make the difference in communities everywhere we travel to. So inspiring stories, lots of stories like mine, like Vivek's, like other people who are listening to you this morning that started out with nothing and worked their way through, the worst parts of the economy and the worst parts of borrowing money and the worst parts of finding resources, and now made a successful business and are employing, tens of thousands of Missouri families across the state. That's the fun part of the job. That's what I tell people all the time. The politics part is the horrible part of the job. Meeting the people part and hearing their stories is the great part of the job.
Lieutenant Governor, you will be up at the dais with the governor, and off to the governor's right will be Speaker Plocker, but you'll be up there. Obviously, hundreds of people will be in that chamber for the state of the state. You are the Missouri Veterans Advocate. I know it's very, very personal for you and very it's something you take very seriously. I do want to ask you about the governor's proposal proposed 8.7% pay increase, specifically the impact that would have on our veterans' homes. Sandy Karsten says it's badly needed. We have staffing 24/7, 365 days a year. The governor's proposal also, Lieutenant Governor, includes a $2 per hour shift differential for people who work at night. What do you say to those lawmakers who would say, we don't need this, or maybe it's not necessary? You would tell them what?
Brian, I'd tell them they're crazy. I have, and you and John know that I have, and John, thank you for your service. We spend a lot of time with our veterans community, and many lawmakers do. We means lots of people. And, several years ago, we had veterans homes with waiting lists because we didn't have enough bed space for veterans. We still have a waiting list, but we have open bed space, and people say, how is that possible? Mm-hmm. We're not at full capacity at any of our homes because we don't have staff. I mean, how embarrassing is this? We have we're the fifth largest in the United States with 475,000 veterans. We don't have enough staff to take care of our heroes at our 7 veterans homes. It's not the fault of the Veterans Commission. It's the competition of the market right now. And you guys all know that yes. The last year and a half to 2 years, wages, salaries, prices, especially in healthcare, have gone through the roof. And so you can't go out and hire people for any business right now when you're 20 and 30% below what the market pays. Most men and women that I meet, I would say every man and woman I meet that work at our veterans homes, are there because they love veterans, not because of the pay. So there's already people who are doing it because of their heart. But we can't rely that every single person that we're going to attract will do it just to take a bullet for everybody and go there for a lower wage. We've got to get our wages up to a market rate so that we can take care of those folks in these homes across our state. Because if you ever have a bad day, go to a veterans home and visit those people. You will walk out of there with an amazing day.
And I think about the people on a state level that have done so much for the benefit of veterans. I think of one of our local reps who reps Cole County, Dave Griffith, and the work he has done over the years. Chuck Basie, when he was in the House, a veteran himself, what they have done for veterans, impressive. Our guest here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, Lieutenant Governor Kehoe, as we're getting ready for the State of the State today, one of the big events happening in Missouri today, 4 o'clock. Tobler is here with analysis and breakdown.
Well, John, as you know, mental health of veterans is incredible. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide. That's why we passed a resolution a couple of years ago, and it seems simple. Check your buddy day on the 22nd of each month. Just call one of your friends you served with. Even if you think he or she is doing great, just call and check in. Dave Griffith does a great job. You guys know Dave and I have been friends. He was my cameraman for 15 years, made commercials for me. Mm-hmm. And I've known him and his family forever. You won't find a more passionate man about taking care of veterans. And as far as the bill that Representative Lovasco filed, I mean, we have to look at other means to try to help these folks out. Is his the perfect remedy? I don't know, but I think it's one of those issues that we have to have everything on the table to see what we can do to help these men and ladies out. I think many of you guys know I'm an honor flight guardian, and I can tell you some stories about sitting with veterans on buses and planes and just letting them open up to you like they never kind of do sometimes at home. And it's real, guys. It's very real. And so what we can do to help those heroes, as I mentioned before, with our state having so many of them, is something that I think we should spend a lot of time on. And guess what? It's a nonpartisan issue. Missourians across the state, you all know I traveled. I've been in all 114 counties at least 3 times, some of them multiple times. Veterans and taking care of veterans has never been a partisan issue. Those are heroes. And people almost, I would say, unanimously say, what can we do to help them out more?
I think that's right. Well, last week we talked about Yellowstone, the TV show, influencing fashion. And a lot of people want to dress up like a cowboy. They want to wear the boots and they want to wear the hat. but they don't want to roll up their sleeves and do the really hard work. Now, you actually are a farmer and you talk to farmers a lot. So tell us what issues are, important to the ag industry right now. And then also we'll be talking a little bit later to Congressman Mark Alford, who just got put on the ag committee. What does that mean for Missouri?
Well, a couple of things. Let me unpack that quickly. I don't like the Yellowstone series because it's caused the prices of horses to go through the roof. So, everybody wants to be Kevin Costner now, and horse sales and what we're trying to buy in horses and sell. Well, selling them was good, but buying them was high. Ag issues, the biggest ag issue that we're still facing is the eminent domain piece. Missouri ranks fifth in the United States at 95,000 family-owned farms. So we are a family-owned farm state. But when you have utility companies coming through the north part of our state, as you guys probably well know, just to the north of you, all across the state, first as a private business and could not successfully acquire the land they want. So then they went and put together a piece that allowed them to go through to the Public Service Commission and utilize eminent domain. You have Century Farmers sitting there saying, I'm going to have towers in the middle of my field that we've had for 150 years that I have to farm around. I can't use aerial spray applications anymore. I mean, it just really messes up their life. And it's not about compensation. They don't want the money. They want the land. And so trying to protect the rights of those Missouri farmers and family-owned farms still is the number one issue I hear about as I'm traveling throughout the state. And as far as your new congressman coming on, you're pronouncing his name wrong. It's All Ford. That's his name.
I like that, getting fact-checked by the lieutenant.
Hey, he's a great guy. He's doing a lot of good things in the ag community. He represents both of our largest military bases, not Rosecrans, obviously Whiteman and Port Leonard Wood. I've set him up at both of those bases. He's went and visit those places just in the few weeks that he's been a congressman. They're impressed with him. Mark is doing a great job, and I think you're going to see great things coming out of him in both the ag community and in the military space.
Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, thank you for joining us this morning. Wake Up Mid-Missouri, 93.9 The Eagle, 104.5 News Radio, 950 KWOS. Anything that we can do to be of service to the folks here in Missouri, you let us know.
You guys are doing a great job with your program. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.
For joining us.
Branden, I'll tell you, and I don't want to get choked up because I'm passionate about the veterans myself, but I think what he said there about those veterans homes, those people are passionate. And if you've ever been in one of those homes, he said something. They really appreciate visitors. If anyone ever has a chance to go see them, it means a lot. It does. I thought what he said there was passionate, that some of them are kind of taking a bullet. I think what he was talking about is they're working obviously below the market. But I've been to the Mexico one, and I've been to some of the others, and it can be some of them just really need visitors. And the fact that he just said to us, and we've not heard anyone say that on the record, they can't find staff. That's why the governor's doing this today. And by the way, the Democrats in the legislature are on board. I do think that's going to pass today. And his other comment was pretty powerful. He said, anyone that's opposed to it is crazy. I thought that was pretty powerful as well.
And I'm guessing when you say, hey, Mike, can we quote you on that? And I'm guessing his answer would be
yes, absolutely.
Coming up a few minutes from now, Brian.
Name something you love to say to your spouse. Something, Truman, that you would love to say to your spouse, but you don't have the nerve. Say it, Truman.
I cheated on you. It's a bad answer.
Truman, sometimes just take an X.
That was on the Family Feud. I love that because I think there's a lesson in that. But the question was, and a hard question to answer, survey says this is a question you want to ask your spouse, but you're too afraid to do it. And he says, Truman, incidentally, as we get ready for the big Gold Rush game tonight, Mizzou, Arkansas, Truman, his answer was, no, I would never do this. But the question is, have you ever cheated on me? And the host there, Steve Harvey, says, sometimes just take the X. Take the wrong answer. And it reminds me, sometimes I could just keep my mouth shut. A lot of times I'm better off saying nothing at all. And my dad used to tell me this all the time because I used to get backhanded at the dinner table because I was a smart aleck. The last time I ever did that, we were sitting at the dinner. My dad said something, and he said, quit being a smart ass. And I said, Dad, it's better than being a dumbass. Whoopsh. I got backhanded, and he didn't miss it. He was eating spaghetti, didn't miss a beat. And I learned then, sometimes good idea just to keep your mouth shut. Sometimes just a good idea to take the X. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, Representative Congressman Mark Alford. He's here 810. He's got appointed to some very hefty committees. What this means for us. Gas stove ban. Did you follow this story closely at all? I know a lot of folks got freaked out about it. Turns out somebody said something.
It was someone in the Biden administration, and they basically said, hey, there's this report that gas stoves cause asthma, and we should get rid of all gas stoves.
We should ban them. And then, it really got overplayed in the media. The people took the comments, and the Biden administration wants to ban gas stoves, and hey, no, somebody said it anyhow. I was reminded the federal government at one time did ban this. Turns out it had happened on this date, January 18th, 1943. The government banned sliced bread. I should like to let you know how important sliced bread is to the morale and saneness of a household, one of the opponents said. But they did this because basic resources were devoted in an ever-growing volume to the war effort in 1943. This, according to History.com, as the tide of battle turned and the U.S. and its allies went on the offensive across the vast expanse of two oceans, bread rationing marked the depths of sacrifices on the home front. World War II put a heavy burden on U.S. supplies of basic materials like food, shoes, metal, paper, and rubber. The federal government banned sliced bread.
I wonder what Chillicothe, Missouri thinks of that. Home of sliced bread.
Today, State of the State. Randy Tobler today, 4 o'clock analysis and kind of dumbing it down for us. Coming up, Congressman Mark Alford. He's going to be hanging out with us here at 8:10 on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Friday, you stood here, though, and were asked about these documents issued by our counsel 18 times. At that point, the president's lawyers had found these 5 additional pages of classified documents. So did you not know on Friday that those documents had been found when you were at the podium, or are you being directed by someone to not be forthcoming on this issue?
I have been forthcoming from...
No, you haven't. Beautiful question. White House presser yesterday, Karine Jean-Pierre. You can I know it's not the best audio, but you can hear this reporter saying, now, you came out on a feel-good Friday, Wake Up Mid-Missouri, they got off there at 9 o'clock, and then you came out and said, hey, yep, these are all the documents. We've all been found. Less than 24 hours later, on Saturday, the big story of the day was, hey,
oops,
we found some more documents. What I heard the reporter saying, she's saying, were you lying then or are you lying now? Beautiful question.
Is that intellectual dishonesty or just straight up dishonesty?
We have Lena Wen from CNN, the Washington Post columnist and one of the doctors, who is now saying, hey, you know what? We have way overcounted COVID deaths. And the qualifier is, yep, people maybe had COVID when they died of something else. Remember the comorbidities and all that. Yeah, people went to the hospital, they got sick with something. But they say, oh, they died of COVID. It's like saying Whitney Houston died of a drug overdose. She didn't die of a drug overdose. She died from drowning. She was really high, too, on drugs, and that's what happened. Anyhow, welcome to the show. I want to bring in Congressman Mark Alford. Got appointed to some pretty significant committees that matters to us here in Missouri. But first, Congressman, welcome to the show. We are appreciative of your time. What's the buzz behind the scenes in the hallways in D.C. as it relates to Biden and these documents?
Hey, thank you, Brandon. Hi, everybody. We're traveling through Tipton right now on the way to Jeff City to have some meetings with the Farm Bureau, and also the governor's giving a State of the State today. When we left Washington, I continue to be in contact with our office there. I know that the Republican conference in particular is very upset at the way this is all played out. Last week, our office drafted a letter. We got more than 40 signatures from Republican congressmen and women to demand that Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, appoint a special counsel. Hours after that letter hit his office, he did just that. And we're going to see what happens now. You know, the Judiciary Committee, the Oversight Committee is going to be investigating this as well. We'll see what information they come up with. But we are very disturbed at the lack of transparency. The White House, from the press briefing, say that they're being transparent in all this. They're about as transparent as a muddy Missouri River. It does not make sense what they are telling us. And more documents continue to be found. The big guy had the big documents next to the big green car, and that is not cutting the mustard.
All right, Congressman Mark Alford here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, 93.9 The Eagle, 104.5 News Radio, 950 KWOS. And I want to remind, especially, you know, we have a whole trench of new listeners. We have files and files of new, younger listeners here to the show, regretful Biden voters. And to folks like that, or maybe you're still a Biden supporter, understand this isn't like a conservative talk show talking point. The current president of the United States had in his possession classified documents. The same guy who campaigned on transparency. This is kind of a big deal. It's also a big deal. You've been appointed to serve on the House Armed Services and Agriculture committees. Congrats. Talk about.
Thank you.
I want to say the importance of what you're doing, but the importance of these positions specifically to folks here in Missouri that are in your district. Why this matters to us.
Yeah, Brandon, I want to make this very clear from the outset. These were our goals in achieving success for our district, not for me personally, but our district needed whoever had this seat to be on these two committees. Vicki Hartzler, our predecessor, of course, did a great job on the Ag Committee and House Armed Services, and was climbing up and was going to chair a subcommittee this time around had she not run for Senate. These are going to be big shoes to fill, and I applaud her service to this and stewardship of this position. And now we have been asked to join these committees to help bring about even greater strength to our military. You know, we have a new B-21 bomber coming on the next couple of years. It's going to be at Whiteman Air Force Base, replacing eventually the B-2, and coming through. We've already had one listening tour in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania last week. I was a part of that on Friday at their farm show, the equivalent of our state fair here in Missouri. And we are going to be putting together listening tours, hopefully bringing one here to Sedalia or Warrensburg, where everyone can come and give their input on the farm bill. It's going to be a very big deal for our economy. With 95,000 farms in the state of Missouri, we want to make sure that we get the best deal for our farmers, that we're able to feed our citizens, that we keep our kids healthy, and that we continue to try to make America great again through our agriculture.
Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. I do want to follow up on Branden's question because that is, I think, very important, not so much on the armed services. That's very important, too. But his question about the Agriculture Committee, because here in just a couple of weeks, if not maybe a month or so, the Swift Foods facility here in Columbia is going to open several hundred jobs. They just briefed us the other day. Reddy did at the Reddy board meeting. And we also, just up and down our corridor here at Lamone Industrial, there are all sorts of food. And then you go up to Route B, lots of agriculture jobs right here in Columbia. Is there any talk or any chance the Agriculture Committee would hold a hearing in mid-Missouri right here in our area?
We could certainly push for that. I know that the Columbia area and the corridor there is vital, instrumental to the success of our ag and processing plants, and as far as trucking and shipping, getting these products out to all parts of the country, the rail lines that run through there. I would be very much in favor, of course, with the energy and everything that's going through the Columbia area with MU's involvement in our ag, that we do have something there. I'm going to be talking with the chairman, G.T. Thompson, to make sure that we get a listening tour, at least one in the state of Missouri, because we are so vital. I've said it before, Missouri is not just the breadbasket of our state in America, but we are really the breadbasket of the world. And so it's important that people are listened to from our district.
Congressman Mark Alford, 4th Congressional District Congressman Mark Alford, joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Well, we need to get the climate change issues out of the Farm Bill. They are tying climate initiatives, they're tying the social scores to businesses and lending, and that should not be part of the Farm Bill. We are going to work hard to make sure that, number one, the Farm Bill stays together, the titles involving the food nutrition programs and supporting our farmers stays together. We think that's very important. But we've got to get back to the business of farming, getting the government off the backs of our farmers, getting the EPA off the backs of our farmers, and especially with the Waters of the U.S. Act, which has impacted a lot of farmers in our district who are not able to farm viable parts of their acreage because of the overreach of the federal government.
Congressman Mark Alford this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Anything else that you would like to add to be of service to your constituents?
I just want to thank everyone once again for having confidence in me to be your voice and your vote in Washington. It's been a very interesting and rewarding 2 weeks. We've made friends there. We've gotten on the committees that we need to get on to be of service to our district. And our office is always open. We're on the 5th floor of Longworth Office Building, 1516. If you're ever in Washington, please come by and see us. I'd love to shake your hand and hear what's on your heart, soul, and mind.
Mark Alford, 4th Congressional District Congressman, thank you so much for joining us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, 93.9, the Eagle, 104.5, News Radio 950, KWOS. To some of those points, talking about getting climate change stuff out of the farm bills. At the World Economic Forum, and I love this, Aaron Hedlund, he's from the Missouri Institute, worked in the Trump administration as an economic advisor. We asked him, because you hear, what's happening at this World Forum economic thing in Davos? What's going on? Why does it matter? Why should we care? And we asked him, why should we care? Somebody just driving to work. Maybe they're working at Swift Foods this morning, or maybe they're working at Hitachi, and they're going, why the Davos World? Why should I care? Hedlund's answer?
You shouldn't.
Which, good, because that's one less thing we got to stress about. But here are some of the things that are happening there. This guy's name is Alan Dangower, as I understand it. He is the director of climate and health. Listen to what he says here.
Of course, the other massive ecosystem-mediated pathway between climate change and health is the impact on our mental health. And we see it's a two-directional pathway. Number one, young people are petrified about the future, and that is having a substantial impact on their mental health.
Young people are fearful of the future, frightened of the future because of climate change. Don't get mad. I agree with what he is saying. They are petrified of the future. Not because climate change is real to the extent that those folks say it's real and the earth is going to cave in on itself in 5 years from now. Yeah, younger people probably are scared. You know why? Because the news outlets they're paying attention to, whatever it is, USA Today, CNN, they hear it and they see it. And it's the news people saying, oh, my God, you're going to die unless you buy a Tesla or a Toyota Prius. Buy one of these, you're going to die. Get rid of your gas stove, you're going to die. And they are. You're dang right they're freaking out. But they're not freaking out based on intellectual honesty from the news outlets. They're freaking out because these kids who have graduated from universities and get brainwashed in these schools of journalism, they think it's okay to go and lie and scare people, scare you to death. He's right. Maybe some young... By the way, I have not met any young people, incidentally, that are petrified of climate change in the future.
You don't get out much. Have you been to Mizzou's campus?
Hey, coming up, we are going to do the Morning Bell business news, little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you. What can we look forward to?
You talked about at one time how the federal government had banned sliced bread. Well, the FTC is considering banning this.
All right, what is it, the FTC? I can't wait. It's coming up a few minutes from now. Stephanie Bell and the Morning Bell here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Good morning. It's 8:25. It's time for the Morning Bell. By this time every morning, we give you some business news, but we also bonus you with a little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
And before the market opens, market futures are looking up. Now, you were talking about the federal government banning sliced bread.
True story.
Years ago.
World War II.
But the FTC is proposing, that's the Federal Trade Commission, is proposing to ban non-compete clauses. And I actually like this in certain circumstances. But they've put out a rule. It's in the 60-day comment period, so we're not really sure what the final rule will be. It's suspected that businesses will challenge the rule. But basically what happens is, you come in, you sign a contract for your employment. And for a lot of employers, that's standard. You sign the non-compete, and it says basically, there's restrictions around it that have been implemented through the courts. But, for this amount of time in this region, so maybe, for a year around Columbia, you can't go open your own business or work for a competitor and basically take what or take our customers. And it's become pretty standard. But in certain circumstances, I think it's overused, and people are saying it also, we need people to work. We have a labor shortage, and it prevents some people from going back to work, and oftentimes in the only industry that they've ever known. So say you've only done one thing, and then you have to sit out for a year or two because of this non-compete. And so the FTC is proposing banning it. And this was a hot topic in the legislature a couple of years ago. I believe it was Representative Fitzwater who had proposed some restrictions on non-competes. And I just checked, and it does look like Senator Beck, Senate Bill 293, has proposed a limitation on non-competes. A lot of states have, and his in particular, which has been adopted in other states, relates to hourly workers. So when you think about why would I do a non-compete? Usually it's people in the C-suite. It's people who have access to really sensitive information, have relationships with customers that if they left could be devastating to your business. And so Senator Beck's bill is like for hourly people. If you're at a retail shop just selling widgets, selling vapes, selling cell phones or whatever, and you leave, and you're making hourly wages, no customers are coming with you. You probably don't have access to a ton of sensitive information. You should really, and then if you get let go and you can't go work anywhere else and you were on hourly wage, where else are you going to go? And so I think this legislation in the Senate is smart. I don't know. The FTC ban is much more broad, and it applies beyond just hourly workers. And also what they're saying is, hey, if you just ban non-competes, employers are going to get their way no matter what, and they can do it through other means. So one is through non-disclosure agreements. So basically you couldn't use anything that you learn or any of the information. The other one is non-solicitation. So and that applies in two ways. One, you can't go steal my customers, and two, you can't go poach my employees even if you do leave. And so there are other agreements, and maybe there are also incentives that employers could provide, maybe to incentivize you to work longer, but they'll get around it. And I think back to what we talked about yesterday, and, hey, you've got to post salary ranges. And the government gets involved and says, hey, in order for worker transparency, post salary ranges. And Netflix is like, yeah, the salary range is 90 to 900,000. So while I think the intent of trying to limit, restrictions on free market, like where people can work, is good, I think we got to be really careful in making these proposals, because I do think that, letting the market dictate, and I think employers will get around it in one way or another.
And the thing is a lot of times when let's say you're signing you're starting a job, we're hiring you, but you have to sign this non-compete. Well, you're looking for the job. Okay, sure, I'll sign it. It will never become an issue. The only thing is what I've done in the past, the only time I am okay with non-competes. If you want me to sign a non-compete, I'm happy to do that. But then you're going to say you're going to pay me for those 6 months.
That's smart.
That you're not going to allow me to go work across the street. Coming up here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, which Missouri county has the most turkeys? And why people are laughing at the Vermont legislature this morning, because they were trying to poke fun at the Missouri state legislature. It's crazy. We're going to do that for you coming up 5 minutes from now.
Well, the Missouri House had a debate, but not about laws this time. It was about what women are wearing to work. They've adopted a resolution this week, and the old dress code says women should wear dresses, skirts, or slacks with a blazer or a sweater. The new rules now say proper attire for women is jackets worn with those dresses, skirts, or slacks. Change proposed by a woman who is Republican lawmaker Ann Kelly. The men's dress code did not change, nor was it debated.
I don't know when was the last time I posted something personally on my personal Facebook page. It'd been a while, been a hot minute. I posted this week because I was so frustrated with national news coverage of what happened in the Missouri House as it relates to a dress code. I would say they overblew it. They lied, and I love this, but they didn't address it for the men. And this whole thing, in effect, nothing changed. I posted on Facebook to all my radio friend colleagues and talk show, please don't fall for this story. The national news outlets and even outlets here locally are lying. They are lying and exaggerating what happened in the House as it relates to the dress code for chicks.
Will lie for fundraising dollars. So it made national news, and I saw some retweets from some folks here in Missouri, and I guess the Vermont women legislators tweeted out, they stand in solidarity with our Missouri colleagues. Please support their fight by donating. And they had a picture of all of them with their bear arms, hashtag right to bear, B-A-R-E arms, which I had seen before.
And we're laughing not because it's funny. I think we're laughing because they think it's funny, and it's not.
And they can't read because you didn't have the right to bear your arms before this new thing. But of course, they're tweeting it out and saying, if you believe in the cause, here, donate to the Democrats, because this, and it's hypocritical because the whole time the Democrats are like, we're wasting our time, this shouldn't be an issue, and they've made it an issue, and now they're saying this is why you need to donate money because it's so important.
John, let me start with you as a longtime journalist here in mid-Missouri, and seriously, I want to separate your opinion from this. As you have watched the national news coverage, local news coverage, they're lying. They really are. I don't know of a nice way to put it. They are lying to you. As a journalist who's been doing this for a lot of years, what's your take on this? Mm-hmm. But the fact that the way the news outlets are pushing this and the way
I think the biggest thing is it was literally 3 or 4 sentences. I mean, it's a 1-page thing, and it's in Ann Kelly had the bill, and it's in maybe a couple of words that changed, but it obviously got blown out of proportion. But if you look at it, John, Ann Kelly's proposal, it's not a whole lot different than when Bob Griffin was speaker, and they had dress code back in the 90s and the 80s as well. It's not much different than that. There may be a few words that were tweaked, but I think the biggest thing is some of these reporters didn't read it. I mean, they couldn't have. I mean,
they didn't read it or they lied.
I like how a lot of news outlets keep pointing out that a woman proposed this dress code. How could she?
And it actually expands. It said, hey, can we count like a cardigan as a blazer? Can that count? And that's essentially what they did. And it's a lot of rules for thee and not for me. I'm looking at the dress code for the municipal court in the city of Jefferson. So if you're the defendant, if you get a speeding ticket and you have to go to a municipal court, it says you must be clean and professional, no shorts above the knee, no sagging pants, no short skirts, no tank tops, no tube tops, no revealing clothing, no inappropriate T-shirts, no caps or hats. And it says they have discretion, and failure to comply with the court rules in the dress code may result in the defendant being asked to leave, change their attire, or be found in contempt of court. So, your citizens who get a speeding ticket, who go to your local court, have to follow certain dress codes. And you're a senator. Shouldn't you be held to a higher standard? Isn't there a respect for the institution, a history of decorum? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yes, yes, and yes. And geez, in the news, will you people please quit lying about this?
I'm a little concerned that flip-flops aren't on the list of no-nos.
But to Brandon and John, and you bring up a great point about court, by the way, because they'll ask them to leave. But to John's point, John brought up something very important, specifically in the Missouri Senate. You have to have a coat and tie. A lot of times, when I was at the Capitol, just because diabetes and I would get hot. Jim Jordan, I bet you, I wonder if he has the same thing. Jim Jordan, the congressman from Ohio, almost never wears a jacket. I don't know if people notice that or not, but he doesn't. And I would go around the Capitol a lot of times in a shirt and tie, but if I had to go to the Senate and I didn't like it, I would have to put a coat on. But that was a rule. Ann Kelly proposed it, and it's not much different. At least from my reading it, John, it's not much different than what Bob Griffin or Jim Mathewson had 30 years ago.
Well, and a lot of it, the hype was just, I think, trying to distinguish, well, it's for women and women are being singled out. But it was Senator Moon who got in trouble last year for wearing overalls on the floor.
He was kicked out. I mean, he was literally, and he knew that. And then, of course, he didn't help himself by, he angered the governor about, defeating the appointment of the health director. But he was removed from some committees for a while. So, yes, it was. And that, I pointed that was Cherie Tolson Reich. The Democrats say they were targeted, but it was Mike Moon that was literally, as I recall, kicked out.
How well did they define sleeves? Like what if a female lawmaker, would a sleeve of, your tattoo, like a tattoo sleeve, and you know who would be the first one to do that? Cherie Tolson Reich. Hey, it's tattoos, but it's a full sleeve, man.
So, Brandon, you were talking about the last time you might have posted something personal on your personal Facebook page. Listener Doug is doing a deep dive. Doing a little Facebook stalking, if you will.
Oh, by a dude?
Yeah. Hey, everyone does it, okay? He sent us a pretty interesting photo of you from, I'm guessing, back in the day, based off of the amount of hair on the top of your head. And it's very menacing. Like, why are you...
Because,
I think you still have that shirt, though.
Probably.
And I will say, too, this whole right to bear arms, if you actually read the text of the rule, and we're going to get all lawyerly on you for a minute, it says a jacket shall include blazers, cardigans, and knit blazers. Nowhere in there does it even say long sleeve. If you were to wear a short sleeve cardigan, I would think that would count.
Yeah, and I've read that, and again, I think in most years that would maybe get 30 seconds. It got a ton of discussion. I haven't talked to Ann Kelly about it, the representative from Lamar, but my gut feeling is she's probably surprised how much attention, and she's been criticized for this proposal. But again, it's
BS is what it is.
Well, now we have a state rep Cherie Tolson Reich texting us at 874-9390.
Was she listening?
She must have been. She said, "I have no tattoos, LOL."
But if anybody were to go and say, "Well, you want full sleeves?" I'm going to go with a sleeve of tattoos. I would give Kevin would be one of my winners of the week. But how do you define woman? If we have a Supreme Court justice now sitting in Washington, D.C. who can't define what a woman is, how can we apply these rules if we can't even define a woman? Kevin, you get some points for that. 874. By the way, John, you know how we talk about your legendary status here in Missouri, which is, code speak for you're old. And it is always very complimentary. I got this for you. No, it's kind of cool because I know we tease you, and it's always a compliment, and we're all brothers and sisters here on the show. We like to tease each other. But this is LeBron James. I didn't realize he'd been playing in the NBA for 20 years now. He was straight from high school, right? Like straight from high school. Yeah, almost as much as Wilt Chamberlain used to score. He's facing the Houston Rockets, and there's an NBA player named Jabari Smith Jr. His father played in the NBA. His father was Jabari Smith Jr. They are mic'd up, and I just kind of thought this was just a pretty cool exchange.
Hey, you played against my dad. Your first NBA game ever, really. Sacramento. You feel old, don't you?
Isn't that so cool? So it's Jabari Smith Jr. approaching LeBron James on the court, says, hey, you played against my father.
I like how right after he says it, LeBron is just kind of quiet for several seconds. You can tell he's processing. Yeah.
Scored 48 points. But sure enough, so this kid in the NBA, his dad faced LeBron James on October 29th, 2003. So see, it's not old, it's respecting the legend.
Well, now
John.
I feel bad because I've said to John, hey, remember when you used to talk to my dad on the radio?
Hey, let's do some leftovers.
Awesome.
How about that? We're going to open up our
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
Before we get into my dad's favorite show here on the radio station, the Gary Nolan Show, some leftovers. I wanted to mention that we were talking about the BS coverage nationally and even locally regarding the dress code in the Missouri House of Representatives for the women only. It wasn't even debated for men. Brenda says it kind of reminds me of that song, the Harper Valley PTA.
Well, the note said, Mrs. Johnson, you're wearing your dress is way too high.
John, you remember that song, right? While we're back on the age jokes. Yeah. Welcome into the show, Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So before we do get into Gary Nolan, Steph, and Marsh, and producer Hannah, myself, wanted to get into some of the things we had leftovers. The Department of Conservation releasing deer harvest numbers for the year. And Stephanie, I thought you'd get a kick out of this. Almost 300,000 deer.
High five, Missouri.
The county with the most turkeys.
Turkeys?
Boone.
There it is. Thank you. I get points for the assist on that one, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Franklin County, apparently, for the turkey season, like 2,400 turkeys harvested. In case you're interested as a hunter. John, you like to kill these things, don't you? All right. Steph, what you got?
It's called harvesting.
Harvesting. You don't kill them. Clean them out.
Eat them.
Eat them.
Last night was fun in Ashland. We had a Board of Aldermen meeting. We talked today about how Jeff City and Columbia both passed this local tax on marijuana. Ashland had previously, passed, is going to send it to the voters. Same for Ashland. We did that a bit ago. But last night, we first and second read in an ordinance to send another question to the voters in Ashland, and that is for a sales tax. I got outvoted, I will say. The current proposal is for 1%, and I had voted against that and said I thought we should do 0.5%. That was not the consensus. I did propose that if we were going to do the 1%, that we should also roll back the personal property tax rate in the city of Ashland. And that was adopted as an amendment on the tax proposal. And so ultimately on that tax proposal, we came to a tie, and the mayor actually had to break the tie, which I think is the first time since I've been on the boird the mayor's ever broken a tie.
So the mayor, in effect, played Kamala Harris yesterday in Ashland.
And so that proposal will be going to the voters. It has to be third read in the city again, so it's not completely final yet. But and ultimately, I think everyone was doing what they thought was the best for the city. And when it gets, when it goes forward, I will be supporting it. I would have preferred a 0.5 cent, but what our law enforcement has said is they need another officer and they need more resources. And so I worked really hard in the last meeting to make sure the funding was dedicated to it wasn't just a blank check, because I don't think people will support it. So importantly, the funding will be dedicated to public works and law enforcement.
When this comes up for a vote, this is, I don't know why, I'm like really, because I'm not about tax increases on anything, but on the marijuana, an extra sales tax, I'm like, it's not going to affect me. I ain't paying it. I ain't buying for the weed. Weird one for me. John, anything tasty in your little fridge this morning? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm hoping that Callaway County Commissioner Roger Fisher will join us on the show. There's him and a whole group of other folks and it's one of those, the people that it is affecting, it's not my backyard, and you got people saying, well, hey, it's my land. I can lease it out to these companies if they want, and then you got nearby the farmers saying, but we don't want that here, and the passion that surrounds this issue, it's some crazy stuff. All right, anything else? Oh, I want to play this real quick. Leftovers, hot mic moment yesterday. NBC's Peter Alexander. They're trying to ask the president of the United States of America, the guy who had classified documents from his time as VP in his possession. And besides having those, then in effect what we're gathering our lies when you tell us on Friday, nope, that's all the documents. Less than 24 hours later, there's more documents. So this NBC reporter is a little miffed at Joe.
Keep moving.
The hot mic, by the way. This is not like he's not being interviewed. Somebody had their mic on and he got caught.
Keep moving. Thank you.
I looked him straight in the eye and said it. He looked me back and didn't say a word. Will you commit to speak to the special counsel? He looked at me, didn't say a word. No.
But that is Joe, kind of, right? You could ask him, Joe, what do you want for dinner? He could look you in the eye and not say a word. Coming up, the Gary Nolan Show. It's my dad's favorite show here on the radio station today, 4 o'clock. Randy Tobler. He's going to be running down some of the things that are going to be taking place today at the State of the State address delivered by Governor Mike Parsons. See ya.
Bye.